All right. My name is Kerrie Vilhauer, Kerrie, V as in Victor, Ilhauer.
And I'll be periodically doing this.
Yeah.
Don't follow me.
Okay.
I'm just making sure it's all running. So where do you live, and have you always lived here?
I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I grew up, born and raised in Sioux Falls for the most part, but I spent a good chunk of time in Minnesota as well.
What part of Minnesota?
St. Cloud?
Wow, you at school there?
Yeah. Yep.
So what would you miss most if you had to leave this part of South Dakota?
Oh, friends and family the most. Yeah.
So what is it that you do to earn your livelihood, your living? What do you do?
I'm the director of marketing at the Children's Museum of South Dakota.
Okay. So what is the Children's Museum of South Dakota all about?
Oh, we are all about sparking imagination, play, and learning for children and families in the community and beyond.
So what's your origin story? How did you get here?
Oh my goodness. How did I get here? I've always wanted a job that I felt proud of, that I loved, that I knew I was doing good for the community. So throughout my career, I took positions in nonprofits and healthcare, and even went tech for a little while. But it all set me up for the space here at the Children's Museum of South Dakota, where I can help share our story and the many ways that children and families play on our prairie.
So for those people who've never been to the Children's Museum, how would you describe it?
How would I describe it? Well, we're located in the heart of downtown Brookings in a old elementary school building. We're 44,000 square feet of fun. I like to say it's a playhouse for children. So everything is built at their level. Everything is meant to be interactive. Everything is a place for them to grow and explore. It's kind of a yes place. So they can communicate with their family and play and just kind of let go of all the stressors of life.
So in one or two words, how would you describe the year 2020?
The year 2020?
And why?
Unexpected. And why? I mean, look at it. Yeah, unexpected. You literally don't know what's happening next.
So describe the moment COVID-19 became real to you, and how did that make you feel?
Ugh. I vividly remember being up in my office at work and watching as places shut down. I mean, since we're in the center of the country, we see things maybe a little bit later than the rest of the country, but determining whether, just kind of fact-finding, figuring out what information we had available to us, information that was valid and from a good source, and then deciding what we needed to do. I remember almost wanting to be done that day, or could you wait a few days and see if things changed? You just didn't know. Things changed hourly at that time, it felt like. So
What did you guys end up deciding?
we had ended up closing the museum. If I remember right, it's been such a long time. I mean, so much has happened since then, but in my role, I'm communicating and writing and trying to digest information and show it in a concise manner. So I feel like we were open a day or two after that as we prepared everything to be closed. But yeah, we closed.
How are you feeling emotionally at that time? What were the emotions that were going through you?
Oh, uncertainty for sure. People talked about staying home. I felt like that was a safe place to be. So for me, I have a family and a husband, and so going into my little bubble was a safe spot. So
how did your daily life change at first?
At first, well, when the schools closed, obviously my kids stayed home. My husband works on, he obviously officed from home as well. And actually I commute to my job, so I chose to stay home as well and work from home. So my workouts, my gym is really where I kept things normal, but we moved that to Zoom as well. So I really tried to just keep the things that I need to do. I need to eat, I need to drink water, and I need to exercise. And honestly, if you go back to the basics of life, you can do anything, but it's maintaining the consistency for me that matters.
So, what habits or routines have you adopted since then? That because of the pandemic?
Yeah, I go for a lot of walks, especially at the beginning. Now I just spend a lot of time outside. But the nice thing is since I didn't have as long of a commute, you can really like get things into your day. I enjoy cooking a lot, so a lot of the things I already did, I was able to spend more time on. But I wasn't one of the people who had an excess of time because my job wasn't very much a lot harder than it used to be. My, schooling the children was harder than it used to be, but I also made some really awesome meals. When you get groceries once every 10 days, you buy everything that is delicious. So I could have Thai, or I could have Indian, or I could have good old burger. So yeah, that part was fun. I took a lot of pictures of food.
Which of those habits and routines do you think you're going to want to keep and integrate into your life now?
I mean, I think the hard part for me is being able to dial back what I've been able to do. I love to bake. Even when I have a full-time job, I bake sourdough bread. It's just kind of what I do. When I worked from home, it was easier to run upstairs and fold the bread 50 minutes later and throw it back in. So what am I going to keep? The basics, eating well, moving my body, drinking water, and spending time with my family.
So now that we're about 100 and some days, 120 days into this thing, what's your daily life like now?
What is my daily life like now? Honestly, it's changing a bit, and a lot of it is because the museum's open. So I'm kind of back to the routine of being at work, which is different, but not full-time at work. But really, prior to this, I obviously ate out more. My lifestyle was fairly similar. My hobbies are outdoor hobbies, so to be able to still go hiking in the midst of COVID, it was, that part didn't change. I think the part that changed is I stay up later and wake up later.
I don't think you're alone in that one. So what's been the biggest challenge for you throughout the pandemic?
The biggest challenge, and a lesson that I learned early on, because I'm a planner and I like to know what's coming, the biggest challenge was to focus on what I knew and what I could control. There were so many unknowns, there's so many things that changed throughout the day that I could go down that rabbit hole of what if, and what do I do then, what do I do then, what do I do then. So to focus on what I know now and what I can do about it was a big part of my mental state and mental health, and making sure that I stayed, in not control, because nobody can control anything, but just stayed like in a space that was healthy for me.
So how does it compare to any of the other big challenges you faced before in life?
It's funny, my coping mechanism, I think, is still, well, we had a tree fall on our house from a tornado last year. I've had water in my basement. Like all the challenges that I've had, my coping mechanism is, well, it could be worse. So in the result of this pandemic, I'm like, well, I'm at my house. I have food. I have people around me. I have ways to communicate with the world. It could be worse. I have my health at this point. So I don't remember what the question is, but
how does it compare to other challenges?
How does it compare to other challenges? It's the same. I think it's all mindset. There's challenges are hard, but if we look at them and then direct our energy to where we can have some semblance of understanding or control or whatever it is that you need to feel safe, then you can do anything. So you spill the milk. You have a pandemic. Same thing. Okay, the milk is spilled. We're going to wipe it up and clean it up. We have a pandemic. Okay, we're going to stay home. We're going to get groceries once every 10 days and work through it. So one day at a time.
So how do you think your daily life is going to feel like in 2 years from now?
I like to think I'm a positive person, but I'm also a very realistic person. So even if we have the joy of having a vaccine in, I've heard up to 10 months or a year away, well, then you need to produce it. Will it ever go back to the way we were? No, but definitely the things that we want to feel comfortable, we're going to bring that back. But things will be different, for sure. I don't know if it will be gone, but we'll know how to live with it better.
So, in the challenges you see in your work or within the community, what excites you about solving them?
Oh, I have been very impressed with just the community in general. I mean, the people who care about local business and people and education are all trying to solve problems, and they're all trying to solve the same problems. And I've just seen a lot of people working together to try to make that happen. Now I know with the advent of social media, the 24-hour news cycle, all of those things are gonna make things harder, but if you go back to the root of community, then it's gonna be more fulfilling when you notice that people are working together.
So how are you seeing that come to life in your day-to-day work, like people coming together?
So when things first started, I mean, as an organization, we had to step back and say, okay, what happened? Analyze what we can do. What are the roles that we can fill to help still fulfill our mission? I mean, our goal as a museum is to spark learning and imagination. And we can do that on these facility grounds, in our doors, or we can do that beyond. And it was really neat for everybody to come together and be like, well, I'll create a blog post or a video about how to do this activity with children. I will figure out how we can open in who knows when with the physical distancing measures in place. So like we all had a role that we played, and we all had to communicate regularly to make sure we were on deck with what needed to happen. So
what were some of the project programs, new wrinkles that you guys have been doing to adjust?
Yeah, so at the museum, we've done a lot of focusing on how can we engage children and families at home. So we would notice like the World of Hearts movement that went out on social media. So we put hearts in our windows. The Chalk the Walk, we put chalk out on our sidewalk. We even put together play-at-home kits that have all the craft supplies and the directions for things that you would do to keep your little ones busy at home. So those are like 3 top things that we did. But we also had blog posts that we shared, like how to make prairie bread. At the museum, we talk about the prairie quite a bit. So that was a very popular one. How to make Play-Doh, how to do all these things that hopefully you can do from your house with the materials you might have. We even went so far as to have some virtual classes and engage one-to-one with children while they're at home, hopefully giving a caretaker a break. But
so, I guess staying on that for a second, you mentioned you're open. So what do you mean by open? And kind of what are the precautions you guys have to take now?
Yeah. So the Children's Museum of South Dakota, we have an outdoor prairie space, and then we have the indoor space. So we have 4 acres outside. We have 44,000 square feet inside. We were built with engagement in mind, with hands-on learning, place to play and grow. So reopening was a big task. We, number one, wanted to do it safely. And then we also wanted to adhere to our mission and our principles to be able to still allow children the grace to be able to play how and when they want to. So when we created our plan, we decided to do it in phases. And the first phase that we came up with was opening our outdoor space only. So taking all the measures that we had there, physical distancing, we have face coverings, even adding acrylic to our welcome desk, signs to remind people to stay 6 feet away, all of those things basically everything that we learned that can help stop the spread, that's what we wanted to do. And being outside, again, just felt like a good first step to taking the precautions to being able to open. And honestly, you don't know how people are going to react to it. So this is like a research ground for when we get to the next phase and you have, you can pick corn and tomatoes and all of those loose parts that we disinfect and clean so regularly already. Like, how are we going to have to do that again? If I took you to the museum and you saw all the different maintenance and cleaning and sanitizing things we have already, we're doubling, tripling that. You have 2 sets of loose parts. So while these are being cleaned and disinfected, then these are out on the floor. And even the outdoor area has buckets and fish and fishing poles and things. So we really have learned how to get into a routine and be able to maintain as safe of an environment as we possibly can.
You guys were tracking on other parts of the world as well. So what were, like, as COVID was starting to emerge here in the United States, what had you already noticed and tracked it? And also, what's kind of the global consensus for going forward in this environment?
One of the first things I remember when we first shut down is I feel like within a week or two, we were on a call with the Children's Museum of Hong Kong, and they were in the process of reopening. And, the culture there is obviously different. Face coverings were very normal for them. So they had all of this, what you had to do to walk into their building, and it was temp checks, and you had to walk on a sticky mat, and you had to wear a face covering, and we're kind of looking around like, I don't know if we could do that. Like, would people come if we did those things? Why would you do those things? And so we just asked a lot of questions. They had timed ticketing. That was another thing that we proposed here at the museum. So we have a certain number of people that we can have on site at a time. But watching Hong Kong reopen and close again was very eye-opening. Even through the Association of Children's Museums, we've seen other museums across the country that have reopened. Houston is now reopened, the one I think of initially. And what they're doing and how their constituents respond to that. We are very conscientious of maintaining health and safety, as are all of them. But in different levels of your organization, what type of revenue you need, what you can do as far as the PPP loan. I mean, these are all big questions that organizations are asking everywhere. So, what do you think globally will happen? It's so hard to know. I mean, we keep track of our county numbers, but even as an organization, we, on a normal summer, see 80% of the people who walk through our doors outside of our zip code. So tourism is a big part of what we do. We're a destination for families to come visit. We are also a place that people stop on their way traveling. So when people stop traveling, it stops a lot of the economy.
So because you got a unique perspective around kids, and you've got the fall school season coming up, what's the plan for the fall for you guys? What are you guys doing?
Yeah. One thing that's really neat, here at the Children's Museum, we have a very close relationship with the local school district. We've had classes that come in and they do problem-based learning. So they'll come every Wednesday and do solve different sorts of problems. So it could be dropping an egg off the balcony and trying to get it not to break, or things like that. So that's going to look different. Is it going to even happen? I know we've reached out to the school districts to say we have classrooms upstairs. If there was a way that we could be a resource to to schools around here, we want to be able to be that resource. So a lot of the planning that takes place right now is like hurry up and wait. I mean, you can plan and think about all the different actions you'd have to take to make it happen. But when you say go, then we go. So it's out there.
So about a little over a month ago, over in Minneapolis, we had the George Floyd incident, and the whole conversation around racial injustice has emerged.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to the immediate incident George Floyd incident. And then how would you characterize how Brookings and Sioux Falls have kind of responded to that moment as well?
Yeah. I mean, my reaction is repulsion. Like it's like when something's been in front of your nose the entire time and then suddenly it's more real than ever before. Maybe even related to COVID. Like, yeah, it's here. Oh no, now it affects me. And so I feel like it was a huge wake-up call for somebody who has privilege, right? Obviously you know things, but until it affects you, until you see it, it goes outside of your daily realm of life. So as far as Brookings, as far as Sioux Falls and our communities, there were protests that were emerging, which is so hard in the COVID times and what your situation is. As an organization, the Children's Museum of South Dakota felt it was very important to, because we're a place for children of all ages, abilities, and we just want to be a place for everyone. We created a page on our website for people to go for more resources. One of our main goals is to be a resource for parents. So we created that page. We wanted to speak out. As a communicator, it's really hard because the most important thing is to listen. And so we did a lot of listening right away. As an organization, prior to the George Floyd incident, we've done a lot of internal work with cultural competency, but it's a beginning. And for us, knowing we had the baseline was important, but also knowing that we have a lot of work to do is even more important.
So, as you think about the next 5 years, what one or two words come to mind? Opportunity. I think we have a great opportunity. Things are broken. So we have the opportunity to look at those pieces and decide what we want to see and what we want to have happen, and we can grow it from there and create a space that's safe where we can learn and listen to each other, and even looking at the way our children are educated. The class size of 24 or 32 in a class size, moving them into smaller spaces is going to be a heck of a journey for our entire society, but think about the opportunities that we'd have to break that down and bring it back up again. So, is there a question or a topic that I haven't asked or raised that you're just chomping at a bit, you want to talk about, or a softball I should pitch at you? Yeah, I love that question. It's always the easiest one to ask, the hardest one to answer. The thing I think about is just that we're all going through it at the same time. And I think that we need to focus on being empathetic. And so whether you are somebody who's working as a server in a restaurant, or you are the mayor of your town, or you are a play guide at the Children's Museum of South Dakota, all of our lives have changed. If you're a healthcare worker, good Lord, your life has changed. So I just think about how we all are in it. It sounds so cheesy. We're all in it together, but we are. So that's what I just hope is that people can be empathetic, especially with the race conversation and what you do with with everyone. It's just to listen more. So you kind of wonder, like, you're going around the country and talking to all these people. Everybody has a unique story, but it's because we have unique stories innately. But at the same time, like, why is my story more important than this guy's? Because they're working just as hard as I am. If you're unemployed, you can be working just as hard as somebody who's working hard to pivot their job. It's just a lot. So this thing's going to go on the internet, and I guess before I get to that question, another question. So, what do you wish people who have never been to Sioux Falls or Brookings, what would you want them to know about this place,
community?
this corner of the world?
I feel like South Dakota, eastern side of the state, I mean, the reason we're here, the reason I'm here is for the people. We have such a great community. I mean, people who work for the betterment of their organizations, for their families, for others. So I would just love people to come and meet the small businesses that are in downtown Brookings. And we have the most phenomenal kitchen store called the Carrot Seed that is one of my favorite places to go. People who are working hard to start businesses and to create beautiful spaces for people to enjoy. I mean, you don't realize how much part of living life is meeting people. It's like those conversations you have on the street downtown, or the server at your restaurant, or walking down the street and saying hi to somebody. Like, you will never find a more personable, kind group of humans than you do in the Midwest. So.
Good old Midwest night.
Yeah, right?
So, let me go to my final question, which is, this is on the internet.
Yeah.
This is a video that someone's watching somewhere, sometime, now,
Or
down the year. We don't know when, but we know somebody at this moment is watching what you have to say.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a time capsule. What's the message you want to put in so that they open this up and hear this message from you at this moment in time?
And I just think of the words that seem to speak to me this year. This is like resilience and perseverance and empathy and space. I think this opportunity gave a lot of people, families, a chance to slow down. While it got more stressful, you were forced to not plan your day. You were forced to not worry about the ball game or the class or the lesson. You had to be in your own space. And so down the road, if we look back at what this time was like, I'd prefer not to think about, the fact that it was the most terrible year ever, or the things that are happening that are terrible. I'd like to look at the space that it was all created. And so now is our chance to go and use that space. And grow from our experience.
Excellent.